What prompted you to get into this line of business?
Because, to be honest, there was a massive gap in the market. I mean, you know, I had travelled quite a lot internationally, and I knew about these kind of places elsewhere. You know, there are other companies who do it. I don't think many of them focus quite as much as we do on the virtual office side, but these kind of facilities existed, and they just didn't exist in Kenya. And I think there are many people who chase the tour and travel market, and I think in many ways it was overcrowded. And you know, I think anyone starting a business should be looking for a niche and should be looking for something there. There's a large gap in the market, and that's where I saw it.
What are your current business challenges?
I think current challenges really is just to make sure that as we grow our business, we continue to offer the same level of customer service. I mean, when we started, I knew every customer here. I knew what their businesses were, and I would, you know, talk to them most days. We didn't have very many. But as you get bigger, obviously it's harder to stay in touch with everybody. It's harder to know who all the clients are. So you've got to find new ways of offering that same personal service, but to a much greater number of people. And obviously, you know, there's a lot of technology and things that can help you do that, and you know, we need to use that.
High points and low points of your venture.
A high moment is always finding your first client, filling your first office, I think, making your first profit. I think, you know, in all honesty, with this business, we've been very lucky. We've had many, mostly high moments, and there's definitely been times, and anyone who started a business will tell you there are times when you would love to be able to pay a bill and you can't pay it, and you've got to go and talk to the person and ask them to hold on. But overall, we've I think managed our growth reasonably well, and overall, I would say most moments are high moments. I've enjoyed every bit of the last 5 years in terms of building this business. There are some other competitors who have entered the market, but again, you've got to look at the level at which you're doing your business and the level of client that you're looking for. I think we probably have sort of 2 or 3 main competitors, but I still would imagine that we have about 60 to 70% of the market. And we've tried to grow in many ways as fast as we can in order to try. Kenya is a great place for people to see somebody, you know, doing quite well, and everybody jumps in and follows. And I think by growing, we've helped, you know, or disencourage too many people to jump in. But again, I mean, hopefully you distinguish yourself also by your service, and that stops other people from taking your market. So at the moment, I would think we're between 60 and 70%.
What is your hiring policy?
You know, mostly I still interview every person that works here. Mostly it's purely the way that they come off in terms of their enthusiasm, in terms of the way they present themselves, in terms of really also what they think is important about the work that they'll be doing. I've never thought that education was the most important thing. Now, there are some jobs you've got to have specialized education for. You can't have an accountant that's never worked in accounts before. But overall, when you talk about our customer-facing people, it's all about the way that they present themselves, and their attitude towards their work and life and whatever. And that's what I look for when I employ people.
How do you balance work and personal life?
I make sure that I have fantastic people working with me, and I think that I'm not obsessed by thinking that I'm the only one that can do the job. I have, thankfully I mean, the lady that is the general manager and really runs this particular business, because we're expanding into other areas, which is really my job. But she runs the business 90%, and she's worked with me for 18 years, all through all the different things that I've been with, and I have other people that I've known for 15 years, 14 years, and luckily I think I have some fantastic people working with me, and I think as long as you've got that and you've got confidence in them running it, you don't feel that you have to be there all the time. And I think you can then set your own goals about in terms of the weekends you take off. I like to play golf on Fridays if I can, and I think it's very important that you do balance the two, because otherwise, you know, work can easily quickly take over if you don't. But the easiest way is to make sure you've got people you trust to do it. Then you don't feel you have to be there all the time.
What are your future plans?
I hope we will be in all the major markets within sub-Saharan Africa. We have no intention of, you know, looking outside of Africa, but I'd like to be in all the major markets, and I think to begin with we're going to focus on being in all of East Africa, and then we'll look at the major markets outside of East Africa. And I hope the company will, as I say, continue to be synonymous with the very high level of service. But I hope also that part of what we set out to do, and part of what we will do, is continue to encourage the smaller businesses and give them a platform from which they can start their businesses. And I think, you know, now we've learnt, you know, clients come to us and they have $1 million to get started, and they think, well, let's take a fully serviced office, and it costs them $100,000 a month. And you know, after a conversation or two, we very often persuade them just to take a virtual office, because, you know, we've seen so many clients come, start like that, lose all their capital because they haven't got the clients quickly enough. They think they'll get them straight away, and of course it takes 4 or 5 months, and by that time they've used up their money. So we now work as closely as we can to understand what each company is trying to do. Now, obviously, if it's a General Electric, then it's not really, you know, much of our business, and they can fend for themselves. But some of the smaller companies coming in, I think we can now got enough experience to offer some advice on what the best way for them to set themselves up here is.
What kind of CSR activities are you involved in?
We work with a small children's home out out towards Machakos, called Terry's Children's Home, and we've known the lady actually there for quite a long time, a lady called Leah, who used to run a very successful charity called Child Life Trust, and she now set up her own out there, and we actually do fund their monthly expenses, but mostly we also work with our own clients to try and raise capital for them to expand what they do, because most companies are much keener to fund a new dormitory or certain facilities or whatever, or buy some new land for them to expand what they do. So we try and take care of the monthly expenses while trying to find capital in order for them to expand the services that they offer. And also, I mean, they have over 200 children there. So that's what we've focused on. And we're not a very big company, so we have to focus on one thing, and that's what we do. We work with that one.